Hey guys, welcome to Towerhand Happy Hour episode 2. Today's discussion is we are going to discuss the dynamics of a crew. What makes up a good crew? Right now we have what would obviously be the crew chief, crew leader, top hand, tech 2, tech 1. Some people call it a pre-apprentice, freshman of the industry. Some people call the top hand tech 3. However you want to call it, however you want to designate it. If you have a 4-man crew, you're only going to have at max 4 different levels of 4 different stages.
Yes.
So what that's how we saw it for the crew. Obviously the crew chief is who calls the shots in the tower or calls the shots in the site. The top hand calls the shots in the tower, gives his best advice, photos, work to the entire crew, especially the crew chief. But what's your thoughts on this?
My thoughts on all this is, having a good crew, when me and you were on the same crew and we had one other guy with us, it was me, you, Train, or me, you, and one of the Bloomer boys back in the day. Look how crazy we were. Look how much stuff we got done with a 3-man crew. We were stacking, doing stuff, getting jobs done early and stuff like that. The dynamics of a crew it's what's most important. I see all these guys now that, they get a new guy on the crew and all of a sudden they turn away from the guy. I've had plenty of guys that come out of the training classes that I've taught, and they get harped on for the most part because they come in the industry. Some of them come straight up from the military, some as a civilian, straight into the tower industry, and they have 11, 12 certs with them. They have more certs than the crew leader does, and they get a bunch of flack from that because they start asking questions. I train guys. When I train the guys, I train the standards and I train them on how it's supposed to be done so they can pass, maybe like an NWSA or, tie wrap stuff, protocols, stuff like that, basic carrier, standards. And it's just insane that some of these crews now, you get them that they don't want to train. They get kind of hesitant with, teaching guys new things.
It's always been that
and that's
way.
It's always been that way. And it sucks because you get these guys that are really eager to learn and want to, better themselves and want to make an impact on the company. And then you get a guy that, a top hand or a tech 2 that's supposed to be helping them learn stuff and they don't want to do it. And it's disheartening to me because all you're doing is making yourself better. If you can train the guy underneath you, the way of doing things that your company specific wants to have things want done, all you're doing is make yourself better. You're going to stand out,
So you got top hand. Top hand's your everyday climber. Top hand's going to want the same guy in the tower that he's had every day, especially on these sites. These are, I hate the term, they're calling it cookie cutter sites, but for the most part, they're just that. I mean, obviously tower is different. Even if they're in the same spot, it's different. But, a lot of this is time-based. You got to get the job done. You got to get it done quick. It's tough for, it's amazing that these new apprentices, tech 1s, whatever you're going to call it, that they don't work out on one crew and they do on the other. And that's just the personalities, I think. But the other part of it's speed. These guys are wanting to get these sites done quick, especially in the wintertime. They don't want to be on these rigs for 12 hours a day. And, but then we back up into what we've talked about before. That's your training. I mean, if you could really train a guy, how the guy could and should be trained. I realize money doesn't allow this all the time, but the guy would show up on your site and the guy would be ready to go. He wouldn't be asking questions on how to wire a rate cap. He wouldn't be asking questions on how to route things through an OVP, finish photos, AAT. He'd know how to use it all. But instead, you're sending a brand new guy, despite all the military experience he's got. You're talking about sending a guy back to the top of the rig there with a guy that he doesn't know or barely knows. You know, now you lose your cohesiveness for a little while, and now
Yeah.
you've got to train them while on the tower. Chances are that we know that money wise it doesn't line up, and I get it. I get it. It's hard on everybody. Now you're talking about a 6-day job. You're out for 7 easily.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. You know, it's like the funny thing about this, like, you know, I remember, what was it? Train was running a crew one time, and I got pulled off the crew I was on. I was still like a tech 2 or something like that. They go work with Train, and everybody's like, oh, you're gonna go work with Train. Good luck. You know, thinking they should, like, he's gonna be an asshole or whatever. I'm like, whatever. You know, I get paid by the hour, and it's a job. I can go work somewhere else if all else fails. And me and him got along great. You know, and that was our start of our you know, whatever relationship we had, you know, together. Me and him worked well together. And it's the funny thing about it is, you know, when we were both working at the same company, and I was running a crew and you were running a crew, they started putting guys, you know, that were either the shit or get off the pot, you know, guys that they either wanted to get rid of, you know, either they quit or they get fired. They started putting those guys with my crew. So I had my 2 other guys, my top end that was solid, my tech 2 that was solid, and they wanted me to start training other guys that weren't working under the crews. So, like, we'll put them with Boone, and either they'll quit, or, you know, they'll come around, or they'll get fired, or they'll come around and, you know, whatever their attitude is, they'll change it. What was it? Within 6 months, I had like 9 guys dip out in hotels on me, you know, because it's the thing is, it's like, you know, we trust each other's lives, you know, our lives are in each other's hands all the time. You know, we got to trust what people are saying. And I always bring back this remark of, you know, people complain about, you know, this is stupid. I don't understand why I have to put this color code this distance away from the head of this jumper. It has to be this far apart, blah, blah, blah. I always bring up the little thing about, you know, we have a little story that we tell people, like, okay, what's your favorite muscle car, favorite vehicle, your dream car? Okay, you're going to buy that car from the dealership. It's, you know, favorite color, favorite interior design, whatever. We're going to take it out back and we're going to detail it for you. It comes back, it's the same color, but the interior is different. Are you still going to want it? Are you still going to buy it? Well, no. Well, it's the same concept. You know, the carrier is paying you to do this, to do what they want. You know, just like the company's paying you to do a task. Now, if you can't do that task to, you know, to the T, return trips kill people. Return trips kill companies. You know, what's your average day rate for a you know, 4-man crew? What, anywhere from $3,000 to $3,600, $4,000 a day? A return trip for
it's more than that.
Well, you know what I'm saying. A return trip is a killer for a company. You know, especially if you're you know, one of those companies that travel out of state.
Well, you lose the money and you lose the day.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you got a return trip and you got to drive 8 hours to even get to the site for a you know, a 30-minute, you know, you got to add 3 pieces of support and take a new photo. What the hell? It's just common sense. You know, do what you're supposed to do the right way the first time. Yes, it sucks because, you know, this industry sucks in general, but we all love it. And,
but that,
you know, get over it.
Those problems all fall back on the crew chief once again, though. So,
oh yeah,
you know, it's as far as the crew makeup, you know, it's tough to have an, you know, we decided we wanted to talk about the crew makeup. We decided that this would carry us through an episode of this, and I think it will. But there's so many variables. There's so many, you know, I'll tell you, we had a deal at a company that I was at that we had one of the crew guys had gotten out of prison. He was in prison for a couple of years. And one of the other guys that we hired happened to be the son of the guy that was dating the prisoner's wife. You know, I mean, sometimes it's just not going to work out. And when you know that, you got to catch it right away. The office, this is your gap between the field and the office. You know, you just got to hope that you got some people to take care of that. But business wise, just business alone, I mean, you got your top hand everyday climber, your crew chief on the ground trying to run other operations, do closeouts, whatever it might be, reviewing all your pictures, testing, and then typically it's your tech two up on the tower, with your top hand once again as an everyday climber. So it's hard for the tech ones to get to advance the way they want to. You just got to hope that you have a few jobs and a tired tech two once in a while, and he can get the training that he needs. That's what I've seen in the past.
Well, I know you did the same thing, and I did too. You know, if we were doing like basic LNA swaps, it's like that, line antenna swaps. I got to the point sometimes where I was sending everyone on the tower. I was putting all 3 guys on the tower. I'd run the ground by myself. We do a trolley tag, right, back to everything, and we run it up there, just because I wanted the new guy to learn, the basics, because the tech two might do something one way, but the top hand does it another way. And that's what's scary. And all of a sudden that tech one gets pulled off that crew and goes to another crew, and they do a complete opposite way, which sucks for this industry, because they're doing the same project, but the way they start to finish everything is completely different. And it's not a bad thing, because it makes it more versatile. You got to figure out how you want to do things your own way. I do stuff my own way, and sometimes people don't agree with it, and they're like, "Oh, I like it better this way." Okay, as long as the same concept gets done, the project gets done the right way, I have no problem with it. It's crazy, look, but like, come as a crew leader. I stress this more and more as the years go on. I come in contact with a lot of companies and a lot of crews, and I always get that crew leaders that I don't climb. I ask them, I heard you're, 4 days behind on this project. Why is that? And they always put blame up top. Well, these fucking guys up there, they're slow, they're this, that, and the other thing, and blah, 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 blah. I said, well, why aren't you on the tower? Why don't climb? I'm a crew leader. So, in my eyes, a crew leader does whatever it takes to get the job done quickly and as safely as possible. I've climbed plenty of towers with my top hand, or put the top hand on the ground. I went up the tower with the tech two.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one, because we've talked about this before. If the guy or guys on the ground can't get the crew chief's job done, the crew chief has no business leaving the ground, except if the top hand is not recognizing something on the tower, can't do something on the tower, needs help, then obviously he's going to have to go up there. But we have this cool technology, it's called cell phones. And now if you have a problem, if you have a measurement, something that unrecognizable that you've never seen before, you can now take a picture of it and send it back down to the crew chief, or send a camera up, whatever you have to do. So,
yeah,
that's kind of gone. But the groundwork we have now, it's, now I'm seeing in Chicago, I have a lot of crew chiefs. They can't climb because they are the electrician. So we're doing 200 amp swaps down here, cabinet swaps, PPCs. There's no way he's going up the tower. He could wanted to, but there's
got to come a time and a place though where that top hand needs to learn the bottom part of the site too. Like, if the crew hand, the top hand or the crew leader gets, has to go back for rotation, or is sick, or
if that's
gets
case,
injured, you can't shut down a whole crew just because one guy's down.
If that's the case, then you better have trained your tech one and tech two, or whoever it is that's below your top hand, properly. Otherwise, they're not going to get that opportunity.
And that's where it all comes down to. People, teaching the guy below them the way of the tower industry, the way of the world, the way they want things done, and the way to do it properly. Like I remember a tech one time, he was doing bottom grounds right before the shelter, and I said, hey, he got all the way done putting the lugs on, the hardware on and stuff. Hey, did you put a Noax or the copper shield, behind the lugs? He's like, oh crap. I come back like 30 minutes later from doing stuff in the shelter. I come out and he took the no-ox or the copper shield and painted the whole bus bar with copper shield. He's like, I did it. I'm like, why'd you paint the whole bus bar then? He's like, I just got carried away, I guess. I got curious and took one of the lugs off. He didn't even pop any of the lugs off the hardware. He just painted around. He painted the whole bus bar.
You're not done with stuff like that.
Dude, it's like it's the simplest things, you know. But it's like, but that can destroy a crew, you know. That can just completely destroy. How can I trust you now? You know, so you start riding that guy's butt because now you can't trust him. You know, how what do you got to do to get that trust back? You know, like in my eyes, it's always better to come clean with your mess ups than blame the next guy down the road, you know, or the next guy below you. Well, it's his fault because he, you know, whatever. No, you're up there. You were there too. It's both your faults, you know. Train him. That's my opinion on it.
Right. Well, I do know that the crews have been in, for the most part, and it doesn't matter where you go. We've had issues. We've seen issues. You know, a few years ago, we lost all our top hands. Top hands that just fell by the wayside. We turned however many crews we had nationwide and doubled the amount. Of course, first thing they did was crews went after top hands. So now you have tech twos that need to fit back in. Guys who never were tech twos are all of a sudden a top hand. You know, so training fell by the wayside. There's some places that are doing a pretty good job on training right now. You've seen it, I've seen it. But there again, in the Chicago, Milwaukee area, we're hiring the same crews over and over again. And it's only because they've produced. And that doesn't help anybody else out because, you know, we don't have the time to train to have guys fall short on site completion because they're training a couple of guys. It doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist for the companies that send them out either. So it's kind of not fair there. But I mean, we don't. That all the training is done on the field that I've seen all my life. I've never really. The NWSA looks pretty good if you want to apply a ground or weatherproofing. That's at least a step in the right direction. But I mean, all the training is done out in the field. Someone's going to have to train them, and it's going to take time away from the job. If you don't, it's not going to get done.
Yep. You know, I was fortunate enough, the company I worked for doing training. You know, one of our last weeks we were doing, you know, we were hanging booms on the towers. We were building bombs for different carriers and stuff. So I was fortunate enough to be able to, you know, implement that stuff to those guys. So when they went with their companies, whatever company they were, some of the guys that were already hired by these companies and they put them to that training. Some of the guys were, you know, looking for jobs, and on the resume or when they talk to whoever they're talking to, trying to get a job, they said, hey, I've already built this bomb for this carrier, and this carrier. And they're like, well, hell, come on. You know, you already know what you're doing. And so I was fortunate with that. The thing is with, you know,
was that Tennessee?
Oh yeah.
Remember when we pulled into that final day's worth of train the trainer training, the testing?
Yeah.
I told you guys about the story that guy that I actually walked away from the site. I won't even get into the story right now, but it was a bad deal. But remember when I pulled in there and I looked out the window and sure as shit, it was him. He was our test administrator.
Yeah.
Small world, man. I didn't think I'd ever pass that, but
yeah, that was when I took his job.
I mean, I hear that he's gone now, and I won't talk any smack.
He's a good dude. He committed. He told him he bit off more than he could chew. Let's just say that. You know, he would talk a good game, but couldn't back it up. You know,
we'll leave it there. Just what was the odds that the site we were just talking about that that I pretty much walked away from, told everybody to go to hell, happened to be my my test administrator. What
Small world.
7 years later or whatever it was, but
Yeah.
he remembered me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's kind of hard to forget you. And when you were talking about let's backtracking a little bit, you were talking about how we're trying to get more crews and stuff, and top hands were becoming crew leaders. Remember that site when I was your top hand, and all of a sudden I got the call saying, "Hey, you're going to start running a crew." And
I don't remember what side, but yeah.
That was the stack in Minnesota. Remember that picture I share with you every year? Hey, remember this?
No, that was not Minnesota. It was Markeson, Wisconsin.
Well, whatever
it was one of the biggest hells of my entire life. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, they pulled me off that to go run a crew. So
yeah, I still think about the job. I still think about the PM. I still think about the bidding on the job.
Oh yeah,
what a disaster. 138 foot luffer jib.
Yeah. I remember the sections were so big we had to have two cranes to maneuver the sections closer so the big crane could pick them. Yeah, that's crazy.
Didn't have the capacity to stack in over 12-mile-an-hour wind.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's getting back on the whole crew thing. I feel like some of these companies nowadays, they hire so many people like diverse, I guess. And it's a good and bad thing too. Cause I've seen some of the most like diverse looking crews in the world, and they work the best together. Then I've seen some of the guys, some of the crews that look exactly the same, like they have the same mentality, and they just butt heads and fight over everything, or they get, down in the dumps with stuff. And it's just crazy how this industry is. Like, there's such a diversity of, other ethnics, other, foreigners, the country boys, the guys from the inner cities, and they're all working together. Sometimes they all get along. Sometimes it's just a heated mess, and it's comical to me sometimes, but it's shocking to me too, on the other aspects of it too, because I've seen some crazy stuff, some crazy crews. I'm like, y'all work together? Like, oh yeah. And they sit there and they bullshit with each other, and they're like a family, but they're out on the road 6 weeks at a time. So,
I'll give it to the Iowa crews. So we talk about finished tower. We talk about tower services. We talk about, I don't know a whole lot. I don't know as much about Murphy Tower as I did before, but I will comment on Murphy when I was there for a couple of years. And we talk about Elite Tower out of South Central Iowa down here. And it's funny, you get on Facebook or something, or social media, or the bar, or away from work, and these guys damn near hate each other. So not everyone, but I mean a few of them. But I see them working the rig, and I mean they do a good job together. You would never know. But once they punch that clock out, it's a different story. So the Iowa crews are different, and I think they're tough. They're tough. They toughed out some pretty good winners here that I've seen. I've had a great group of guys work underneath me, and I don't know how we all did it, but Murphy's was a big one. Murphy's had guys that we were ready to fist fight each other, and it was on a daily basis. But during the day, I mean, man, we got stuff done. They were some of the hardest working guys I'd ever been with. Personalities clashed, but the work personalities didn't. They fit right in with each other, and that's
and it's like I think it's not so much crews too. It's actually like Midwest. I see it Midwest companies. Like my company, for example. I got awarded a job on a package deal for 3 other jobs, so I had to do this one job, but I couldn't handle it at the time. So I'd go to another company in Iowa or the Midwest and say, hey, you guys, you got capabilities or availability to do this job. yeah, we can do that. I'm like, okay, when can you get it done? You know, and vice versa too, the same thing. You know, it's crazy how like we all get along, but we don't get along, you know, because we're all still fighting over the same bids and the same stuff. But when push comes to shove, if someone needs a part or something like that, you know, you don't lie to the guy and say, hey, I don't have that part, you know, you do.
Right.
Yep, I can get it to you. Just, you know, give me the replacement, or, you know, give me the check for the part and I'll get a new one ordered. You know, that's what's cool about, you know, the Midwest, I guess, as I see, you know, because I see like some of the crews down south, and I'm like, you know, it's everywhere too. Even some of the Iowa Midwest crews too are the same way. They don't get along with certain people, and they don't care for each other, and that's whatever. But majority of them, they get along, and it's, you know, it's a family. It's insane to me. It's awesome though.
Right. Well,
I always love it when I see like the one guy, you know, he either quits a company or gets fired from a company. Then next week he's working for another company, you know, an hour away from me, an hour down the road. You know, then he jumps back to the old company, and he goes back to the other company, then he's off for another company. It's like a triangle effect. It's insane. You know, that's another thing I want to talk about too, is you know, when do you let go of a good hand, you know, with crew dynamics, you know, when do you realize that he's a, you know, plague on the crew or the company? You know, when do you realize when it's a good time to let go of someone that's, you know,
it's hard to train a guy. It's hard to train a guy, put him to work for you every day, gets along with your other guys. And you know that if you write him up, ring him up, fire him, lay him off, more than likely he's going to jump in his vehicle and head right down to the next tower company and possibly do well for them, possibly not.
well, it's like with that being said, if you talk about write-ups and stuff like that, why does a necessarily, you know, a write-up have to be a bad thing? You know, why can't it be like you know, a corrective action for your career? You know, like a write-up doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're going to get fired, or, you know, 3 write-ups is going to, you know, cost you your job.
So to be fair, I didn't want to write up. I never wanted to write up. If you wrote me up, I'm going to be sour for the next 30 days.
That's the majority of people.
Well, but until I came, you know, to MozTech, I and understood the corporate side of it. I didn't understand that. And I know you understand it from, you know, from doing the safety training that you've done. I know you do, that when you have companies that aren't writing people up, that's a recipe for disaster, because we go back to another company we knew about. When asked if the guys out in the field had seen guys free climb, and everyone said yeah, but then OSHA said, well, we've seen no write-ups here. We see no corrective action on this. Have you ever seen guys without hard hats? Well, yeah, several times. Where's the corrective action? So that makes me understand now. I didn't understand before. All I understood was before is that if I get a write-up, it's coming up in my my review, and I'm not getting the money that I thought I should be entitled to.
But not necessarily though. That's the thing that.
Oh, but that's my thought. But there's a gap between the field and the office. I didn't know that. I didn't have a CM that came up and told me, "Hey, don't worry about it. This is you know, you are being disciplined, but these are things that we have to do." No one ever explained that to me.
Yeah.
Had I known that we need to document everything, otherwise down the road something could happen, a fine could happen. You get shut down, you get suspended. No corrective action items are a bad thing. I would have understood that. But you know, I'm in my late 40s right now, and I finally get it explained to me, and now it all makes sense.
You know, it's you know, with that too, like, you know, even like verbal, you know, like verbal warnings or verbal corrective actions, they need to be documented somewhere, you know, in your timesheet or your notes for the day, just because that's a way of you know, securing, you know, your company, like making your company more, you know, secure for if something does go south. Because, you know, we all know tower climbers think they're the, you know, biggest, baddest mother effers in the world. They're invisible, invincible. They, I was there, hell, I've done some crazy stuff in my life, and so have you probably. But it's like, you got to understand, this one little small thing can ruin a whole company. So by a company not noting that, this person was free climbing or doing an unsafe act, and all of a sudden something goes south and he ends up getting injured or, God forbid, killed, that comes back on that company. You can award him. People will award everybody all the time. You're the safest guy in the company. You're the, most, your paperwork's done the most right way. I don't care what it is. Everyone has flaws. It's human nature. Everyone does stuff that maybe they don't think about. It's complacency. Complacency is the number one killer in our industry, or in industry, as I consider. But without documentation on something so small like that, it doesn't even have to be, written up. It could be a verbal thing on, I talked to Chad Aldrich today at this site at this time on this date. Noticed that he was not wearing his hard hat or PPE properly, identified the issue, told him to get his proper PPE on. No other issues. But as long as that's documented, that's all OSHA cares about. They understand that you tried to correct this action prior to something possibly horrific going on. So, I hate that people hold write-ups over people's heads, like they're gonna get fired for stuff. And I'm like, this is the tower industry. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
Hold it over anybody's head.
Sometimes they try to do that, like, oh, you had 2 write-ups this year, you're not gonna get your whatever $1.50 raise, even though you're the number 1 crew. And that's just petty for me. You talk about why this write-up happened. It's all about accountability to me. Accountability is everything in my eyes. If the guy takes accountability and says, yep, I messed up, hey, this is why it happened, I was just, we had a lot of things going on, and I just, wasn't thinking straight for the first 30 seconds, and he caught me. All right. You know why you did it? You had accountability to it, and that's what it is.
Well, so you just talked about guys moving down to the next company down the road. What if you were getting wrote up for something that the last employee got caught doing twice and never got wrote up? Now what? Where's your accountability now?
That goes back on, your management. Everyone's got to be the same. We can sit here and talk this all day long and fight this. Everyone's got to be the same. Everyone's got to have the same amount of accountability, and that's why I hate like in-house audits on crews. Like when they do like safety audits on in-house like crews. That's why I hate like the safety director or like the CM. I know you're a CM, no judgment there, but I hate it how sometimes like the in-house guys that come audit their own crews, they see things. They're like, hey, let's change this quick. 'Cause sometimes they take photos and whatever else, and then they don't document anything. And they're like, oh yeah, crew's good to go. Even though they knew that there was a list of things that were done wrong or incorrectly. And then all of a sudden something happens.
How many in-house crews do you know that are ready to shut their own crews down for the day or longer?
None. Because it's all about getting that money and getting productivity, going. But that's the problem though. We can say safety all day long. But when push comes to shove, that safety director or whoever doing that audit has to answer to the project manager or whoever his higher up is, when they start complaining, why did you shut down my crew? Well, I shut down your crew because of this, and this, A, B, and C. Well, could you just have corrected it and, moved on? Yeah, I could have, but this is the, second or third time I've caught them with this. Now some, corrective action training needs to happen, or, remediation training needs that, happen. In the long run of everything, you're looking out for the company, but that's not the way a lot of these companies see it now. They see the short-term aspect of they're going to get hounded by whoever carrier or whatever project they're working on. They got to show productivity. They don't care about the rest of it. You know, you know me, you know how I am.
So
What do you think about that?
we're back to money and time again.
Yeah. It's the nature of the beast. It's always been.
So yeah, I've seen a lot of new guys. Moving back to what we were talking about earlier, I've seen a lot of new guys. I've seen a lot of safety infractions with new guys, not knowing how to wear a harness right, hooking the lineup incorrectly, mounting the upper block incorrectly. I mean, there you go again.
Why is the new guy mounting the upper? Why is the new guy mounting the crown block?
You tell me. You're telling me you've never seen that before?
Oh, I've seen it 100 times. I always ask the question, why is he doing it? I understand, put the block and the rope on the new guy and make him climb it up. That's fine.
But
you're competent.
When you start training the guy.
I get that. You're competent. You could say, hey, rig the block. Go up there. This is the leg we're gonna rig it on. This is how I want it rigged. You can have him rig it, but that competent guy better be up there. Whoever the competent guy on the tower is, he better come up there before any of the load gets pulled on that block, on that line, and verify everything is done.
I get that. I'm not saying
you see it all the time though. You have 30 feet of headspace, and the guy's like, oh, well, it's 30 feet extra climb. I'm not gonna go up there. Yeah, looks good from here. And all right, send it. Some of the pettiest stuff we've seen is what kills people. You get paid to do a job. You get paid by the hour. Do it.
Again, we go back to training again, and this doesn't have to be, it's so difficult to talk about this because there are so many companies that do things so much different. There's all in all, I mean, look, we've all been new in this industry, and there are a lot of good crews. I see a lot of good guys working for the companies that I mentioned earlier. I see a lot of them out of Chicago, a lot of good guys. Somehow, some way, they got the training. I doubt it was in a shop. I imagine it was right there on the tower. I never minded if a guy stood and watched, just as long as I knew that he was listening and learning.
Yeah.
We've all been there before. We've all been there before. And looking back on our talk here, we've none of us wanted to be rode up. Do we understand it? Maybe. I sort of did. I didn't understand the whole OSHA implications. I didn't understand any of that. I understood that somebody's going to be the guinea pig. And have I done stuff wrong? Yeah, I've done, especially looking at the laws now. I did stuff wrong before it was even wrong in the law. I got lucky, and I was lucky enough to work for a guy who let me break everything 3 times.
Yeah.
And still believed in me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what got me to where I was, before I left the field. I think it was pretty good. As a crew, we were pretty self-sufficient. Not barring any problems or any, parts that had to come from another location, whatever. But we found ways to get stuff done and get it done as safe as we possibly could, with the time we had to get it done in. And I only say that now because if I was still on a crew, I would never add that last statement at the time we got it done in. But it's dangerous stuff. Yeah, it's still dangerous. We are still sending guys up on the same rigs as we always sent them up before. It's just as dangerous as it's been since 1998. The difference is it could be more dangerous, because in 1998 we had so few guys no one slipped through the cracks. Everyone got trained. These guys here still today, they're lucky to get the training. And that's no knock against companies, by the way. That's none. There are so many tower climbers. You add that many tower climbers, you're bound to have fatalities, problems, issues, lack of training.
Well, it's the turnover rate, the big thing is the turnover rate. You get these guys in here, I like with me, being training like in Nashville, it was a 3-week program. We check in back in like 6 months later to see how the one class happened. I remember we had one class that was it was 24 people in the whole class. I checked in, I found out only 6 people in that whole class made it 6 months. The rest of them left the industry or got different careers or, just couldn't handle it. I understand. I get the whole issue. It's just, what Henry Ford says, what happens if, what was that? How did that go? Why should we train people and they just leave? And he says, what happens if we don't train them and they stay?
Right.
Same concept. So we have our email address in the description below. I want you guys to feel free to drop us a line, give us your comments, questions, concerns, topics you want us to talk about. If you guys want to get on this podcast with us, we can invite you to be a guest. If the topic you have is good enough. We try to bring light to things, so we don't want to be too much negative. I know we get kind of negative sometimes, but that's the industry we are in. But feel free to call us or email us and tell us, how we're doing. Like I said, topics, questions, concerns, let us know how we're doing. If you considered being a guest, let us know. Chad?
Yeah, perfect. The email address, you'll see it on the screen here, or maybe you've already seen it on the screen, is towerhandhappyhour@gmail.com. Towerhandhappyhour@gmail.com. We selected that because we wanted to keep it short and sweet. But
and we don't want to, and we don't want to pay for domain name.
What? Listen, just drop us a line. Some of you guys already have our phone numbers, but send an email in. The email, just cheap email. Boone and I can both see it. If you got a question, comment. We like to bring some guys on. So just talk about shit, talk about the industry, talk about home life, talk about whatever. Let us roast you, whatever you want to do. Talk about Boone's beard. So it's towerhandhappyhour@gmail.com. Drop us a line. We'll hook you up. We'll find the time that works and we can release it. And yeah.
All right, guys, you have a good weekend. Be safe out there and keep 100.
Once again, thanks for your hard work, guys.